Hello everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another StarCraft 2 broadcast. I am Anaris here today with game number 2 from the best of 3 series between Team Mousesports and Team Evil Geniuses from the EG EMCSL. We do have representing Team Mousesports on the left side, Nova and Tosh, the Zerg and Protoss, against Axlov and Strifecrow, representing Team Evil Geniuses here today on Monolith Ridge. So let's actually talk about game number 1 here. I really think that Team Evil Geniuses could have come out in the lead in this best of 3 series if they had really taken advantage of that window of opportunity with the Infestor and the Siege Tank there. They just really didn't commit to using it to the best of its ability. You know, that Infestor harassment that came in at the natural for the Protoss player, I think was just too little too late. I think they were a little bit scared of what was going to be coming across the map there, as I mean, really, we saw that the Zerg player was in a bit of a vulnerable position. That is Strifecrow up here, opening up with that Infestor play. It does kind of leave you without a lot in the way of units other than those few Infestors. But again, it's kind of a gamble, and that's the point of the build. You really need to get out, be on the offensive with a Terran player who has a nice amount of Siege Tanks and Marines, and isolate the expansion. That was one thing that they could have done. That expansion was building up when they had that window of opportunity. They could have cut that off. And they didn't. They just kind of hung around, built up their bases, and went for an economy style of play, with basically the Zerg player having to play catch-up in the mid-game while his opponent was basically just, you know, building away standard play. So Strifecrow now, we see him actually opening up with a 10 pool, 10 gas here, with several Zerglings on the way. Likewise, Axlov opening up with 2 barracks pressure, one of which is extremely close to the other opposing player's bases. Now, let's look over here. Nova has opened up with what looks like a 14 pool, 14 gas, pretty typical opener there. Pretty safe, except for against builds like this, where we see Tosh, fortunately for them, does know that those Zerglings are on the way. So looking down here, you see he scouted that out. He has went ahead and delayed his Cybernetics core in favor of a Forge and chrono boosting out that Zealot as well. So Tosh definitely on the up and up, ready for that attack. Nova down here, on the other hand, he does have 6 Zerglings on the way, but we don't have a Spine Crawler. We do have a Queen. That's about it. So I'm a little curious to see how much he actually expects to be able to hold off with this, considering the fact that Axlov is obviously committed to this pressure play as well here. It's going to be extremely difficult to hold this off with just a few Zerglings and some drones. You're going to suffer some very heavy casualties there, as those SCVs actually repairing themselves, as they did dive a little bit too deep there in the early part of that fight. But they have managed to keep themselves alive at least long enough to allow this Marine to at least escape temporarily. However, this Zealot and his couple of Zerglings have a few things to say about that. So now Axlov and Strifecrow are going to kind of fall back at this point and build up their forces a little bit. Very smart move, I think. They don't want to run in, you know, single file into the base, because yes, the Nova does have several Zerglings as well as the Protoss up here with 1 Zealot. He does have that cannon as well, so that's going to be good. And really what he can do is, if he wants, he can clog this up with another Zealot and start funneling down reinforcements. We do have a Baneling nest on the way for Nova. Really, Nova is hoping that this is going to go on to the later parts of the game. I'm not really sure that it is for him, because you look and see what is coming down right now. He is not going to be able to fight this off. He has got a Queen, yes, and that's fine and dandy, but it is going to get taken out by those Marines very quickly. Oh, wow, 10 hit points left. So very close on that. But again, you see Axlov and Strifecrow, Evil Genius is just very heavily committing to this early pressure play, and it's going to get some great results. He's already taken out the Queen. We see he's down to no drones now, the last one just taken out, and Strifecrow with fresh reinforcements able to take out this hatchery. Just a few Zerglings here for Nova, as he's basically just going to try to get those back and retreat back up towards the Protoss base, where we take a look here and we see again that Cybernetics core was delayed. He is forced to chrono boost out continuously to get that Warp Gate technology on the way as soon as possible. I think he's still going to have that around the 625 or so. So that'll be a pretty good timing for that. Not too far off from where it should be. But Strifecrow now, you see, has a couple of Zerglings in his base. Again, this was just the 4 Zerglings that ran across the map. They haven't actually done anything yet. I wish I could actually bring up that workers killed little feature that shows up here in the middle, but unfortunately that is not available in 2 versus 2. So let's just look at the resources lost here. You see the Red Zerg has lost so much, 1,700 resources. His hatchery, all those drones, man. He's actually going to be losing these larvae here in just a second. But notice how he's already sent all of his money to his teammate. I think that's an extremely smart move at this stage in the game, because looking at what we have the Protoss player doing right now, which is basically just going to be a 4-gate Blinkstalker play, trying to use that little bit of extra money and basically just out-tech his opponent, hoping to catch them, hoping to catch Xsov and Strifecrow while they're maybe switching over to economy, maybe not investing quite so much in the way of units. We, of course, can see a reactor is on the way. Obviously, if you can get enough Marines, you're going to be all right. Stimpak on the way as well. So it really just comes down to numbers, positioning, things of that sort. And now with Tosh running across the midfield now, his forces are a little vulnerable, but keep in mind he does have 3 Zealots. So those are obviously very, very good at taking out those Zerglings, which are the primary threat to be dealt with at this stage in the game, on this portion of the map at least. And he is going to actually be pulling those back. So now this portion of the map, with the exception of a couple Zerglings littered around, is going to be belonging to Team mousesports. So he's going to have to basically make a decision here. Does he want to try to expand and build up, which would be a very risky move, I would say, making it extremely difficult to come with a win, or is he going to be going for some type of play involving basically just going with that Blinkstalker play and shutting down his opponents one by one? I have to say, looking here, there's a lot of those low-tier units hanging around, and with all of these Zerglings here, plus the Marines and now Marauders, it's going to be very difficult to go for this option as well. So actually, just looking at the supply right now, look at the Army tab real quick. We see 51 for the Terran, and Yellow sitting at 29, 26 right now. He did sacrifice an Overlord over here to get an idea of what was on the way, and we, of course, can take a look here real quick and see he did not spot that, but he did spot that blink in the base, and now is confirmed by the blinking of the Stalkers right there. So we are going to see both players just kind of adjust a little bit, expecting that blink style of harass. We do have a changeling coming over here for Strifecrow. I believe this is actually just coming back here. No, this is, yeah, I was about to say his opponent wouldn't have one of those. Very interesting choice to select that, send it back, and then over there. But now we are going to have Tosh move in now. Interesting force field placement. Very interesting indeed. Really kind of minimizing the amount of movement the Terran player can do. A couple of Marines are actually sandwiched in there entirely, cannot move whatsoever. But all of those Zerglings have been dispatched, and we are going to see the Terran player actually kind of back up just a tiny bit. The medevac support here is going to be absolutely crucial. I think that Axlov will be able to hold this overall. He will lose this bunker, but again, well, I don't know. You see these medevacs do have a very little amount of energy, so the whole thing about the Stalker play now is he really wants to kind of whittle down the forces, but with these medevacs here, it's going to be extremely difficult to do that, because they're just going to kind of keep healing up those little bits of damage, which means he's going to have to commit to a longer attack, leaving him more vulnerable to this basically direct confrontation, which you see he will come out barely in the lead. He does have a lot of Stalkers still, but they're all very low in hit points. A couple there with shields, that's about it, and we do have a lot of those medevacs surviving, 2 out of the 3. So the Infestors, I think, were a very smart move by Strifecrow. He's going to be able to do a lot of damage to these Stalkers, basically root them in place and keep them from using that Blink Micro, which is something that really Tosh is going to be relying heavily upon here in the near future. While we see him actually moving up, the Terran player is looking to come and try to stop this advancement. We're going to see him blink down to safety. Will he actually decide to go and hit the Terran base now? It's kind of up in the air. We're seeing it is fairly vulnerable. He would have light reinforcements to help him out here, but still it is going to have to rely very heavily on this nice blink micro, which doesn't help a whole lot if you're getting attacked from 2 different sides. You're just going to end up blinking into a different portion of the army there. However, he does have enough units to basically hold off for a little while longer. But Tosh here continuing to face the pressure from the Infestors. I think, honestly, if it was just him versus any one of these 2 players, he'd be in a great position, but a combination of the Infestors and the Marine Marauder Medevac is just going to make this a little bit too much for him to try to bite off. He is going to continue to try, though. Nice blink away, and that's really what the fungal here is all about, just to try to keep that type of harassment from taking place, as it's really the strongest thing that Tosh has in his arsenal right now, is the ability to quickly retreat from that fight. He will be losing those 2 Zealots. At best, he's going to be buying himself a little bit of time here, as you see the drones have basically just retreated back, aware of the fact that he only has to buy a couple minutes time or a couple seconds time in order for the Terran to actually come up here and reinforce. But you see now the medevac to army ratio down here is actually pretty strong. He's going to be able to keep a lot of these units alive. And they do have enough energy for one fight there. You're going to see them kind of get overtaxed there as the seconds go by. But overall, I think that Tosh is, again, slowly just getting whittled down. He's not really making the type of inroads that he wants to be doing right now. This is really signified by the fact that StrifeCrow has 4 Infestors now. Still no Burrow, which is definitely something he could be using to his advantage right now. But overall, I think Tosh is realizing that he's just not going to be able to do a whole lot more. Nova actually just decides to just outright leave the game. And at this point, I don't blame him. Just look at the army size right now. You can see, yes, Protoss has 49, but 55 can 32. That's just not very good odds. So here we go now. Tosh actually just leaves the game after seeing this engagement take place. That's going to take us to 1-1 tied for the final fight. Let's go on to game number 3 and see how it ends.